Okay, let's set up your development environment. Now this video is for Windows users. I'll make a separate video for Mac users. As you have seen on the student manual, there's some information here you're probably already going through. What you need for this course. Now, let me just start with something about this course. So this course we're teaching C++20, which is the latest standard, and it just got finalized a couple months ago. So a lot of the tools are still playing catch up. Well, although the draft version has been out for a while, um, some of the tool developers they don't want to start developing until something is finalized, and so we will see a um sort of a variety of delay in many different tools. Now, um, if you have taken my other courses, you have probably noticed that I recommended different various different build tools. Notably, one of those is called the Bazel. Bazel is an open source tool originated from Google, and now Bazel is a very nice, easy to use tool for building not just the C and C++ programs. It supports many different languages. Um, Unfortunately, that tool doesn't support the C++20 um, modules specifically yet. Um, so now the C++20 modules support. There's another twist in there. Now the twist being that we have a couple of major C++ compilers. You got MSVC from Microsoft. You have Clan. There's an Apple flavor of Clan. There's a vanilla Clan. And then there's a GCC. GCC is the default on Windows, Apple Clan for Mac, MSVC for Windows. And those are the major compilers, not the complete list, but there's many more out there. And the support for modules is the current situation is this: the MSVC has the best support, not complete support, but it's I think it's got the best support. And so if you're using Windows, you're in luck. You're probably going to get a better experience with MSVC and with a Visual Studio, the Microsoft's development tool, the IDE for C++ programming, and much more. And then if you're on Mac, again, I'm going to have a different separate video for this. Then there's two choices. You could potentially run a virtual machine that runs Windows on your Mac. So then you can follow along with the same Windows experience, or you get a sort of a degraded experience with the GCC. It still works, and it just don't get much of IDE support. So there's two parts to this for module support. One is compiler, and the other one is IDE support. So let's get back to the Windows portion of this tool's dev environment. So some of you, if you already have a Visual Studio installed, and that's great, but you just make sure you look at this this image here. It shows the tool pack you need to have, the features that you need to have for the modules. And so the top portion of those are kind of just a default that when you initially select the desktop development with a C++ workload, and those things would have been chosen for you. But make sure if you don't have it today yet, you may not have it. If you have Visual Studio installed, then make sure you go back to modify your features set to include these two parts to it to this. And there's a C++ modules and C++ clan tools. Not that we're using clan specifically, but there's other things that comes with that clan tools option right here. So anyway, get those two things installed, and you should know how, if you're using Visual Studio, you should know where to go to. So it's under this menu, tools menu. Then there's this menu option items. They call it get tools and features. And that, once you click on that, you're gonna get to that screen where here you're gonna choose the workloads and stuff. So that's for those who already have a Visual Studio installed. Now, if you don't have it, and I have a video here recorded right here, so you can just follow along. Feel free to skip portions of it, as this was kind of waiting on installation and the bundling installation that took quite a little bit of time on that computer I had. So so this is the Visual Studio. So that's the one. Now, when you install Visual Studio, that's the IDE for Microsoft. There's different versions of Visual Studio editions. So you just get the community edition, which is free. And then you want to install these features here. So when you get to the feature selection in this recorded video, actually I did not choose these two options here. So make sure you get those things checked. But then if you forgot to do it, and you can still go back and modify though. So that is the, so you now with this installed, you got the compiler, MSVC, and you also got the Visual Studio IDE. Now the IDE looks like this once you have this installed. So it is what you would expect from IDE. You got a sort of a pane here for the files in the system on your project that you're working on. For example, if I'm gonna open up a C++ file, let's say actually the one that I want to open is actually the other one, this guy. So this is the repository, the private repository that I've given you access to. So after you follow along the process to get authorization, and so you check that out. Now, how do you check that out? So there are different ways to use Git. So now let me actually just show you real quick about, in case you have not done much of that before. So first of all, you need to follow the, if you don't have a Git installed on Windows, you have to get the a Git client installed, and just follow this video to have a Git client installed. That's one thing that you need to have. And once you have that installed, and you can, so let's actually go to the repo. I'm going to just show you real quick to check out that code that let's say you've got access now. So you open up this repo. So see, this is the GitHub website, and there's this pretty prominent green button here. Although you may be having a different theme than mine, but anyway, you're gonna have a code button right here on top right corner of this repo. And then you click on this and you'll get different clone URL options. So the clone means you're trying to make a copy of the remote repository, bring this to copy to your local disk to your computer. And so you could, there's actually three options here, so I'm not gonna talk about the, now let's, so the HTTPS is perhaps the easier option for you if you are using, well, actually it doesn't matter if you're using Windows or Mac. The SSH is a little bit more involved to get that set up. So I would say probably just go with the HTTPS URL and just use that. And there is a copy to the clipboard button. You can click on this and then you have that copy to your clipboard. So now let's say you have this copied, and now I'm going to show you the method I prefer. So I'm going to just show you that. Now I know some of you probably want to just use the GUI tool, and then you feel free to use the GUI to do those things. So once you got the Git client installed, by the way, you do get a Git GUI. So like this, right? It's fairly primitive. Now I know GitHub also provides another sort of a GUI you can install as well, but so there you got options right here. But I typically just want to go straight to the terminal. So if you do development, you got to get used to the terminal, which is sort of the fastest and most direct way. So I'm gonna this is sort of the method I'm gonna show you, because that's what I think you need to get used to sooner or later. Now I want to open up this terminal on Windows. Now Windows comes with some a built-in terminal, PowerShell or CMD. Now you really should always just be using PowerShell going forward. CMD is the older incarnation of the terminal interface. Now PowerShell, so it has a built-in sort of a PowerShell. I believe if you just type in PowerShell, you see there's a ton of them actually. Windows PowerShell and Developer PowerShell. It's fairly confusing, by the way. So I would say you can certainly just use that now. So it should not have a much of a big difference. Now there's one terminal that I do use, I prefer. I want to introduce that to you. It's from Microsoft. They have this new Windows terminal. Now just want to show you this real quick, right? Windows terminal, you can you go to the App Store, Windows terminal, just type in Windows terminal, and then you'll find this right here. So this is an app through the App Store and just the Microsoft Store. So you can get that installed from here, and this is sort of my preferred terminal on Windows. Okay, you just get a better experience with just the interface and the way you use it. Okay. And so if you want, so you get that installed. This is what I use here, right? So this is what I show you. If you don't, then I just use the vanilla PowerShell terminal from Windows. Okay, so I'm going to show just let's go to well, I usually create a folder called dev folder under my user home, and this is where I put my code and everything, and then you can however you want to organize your code, and just this is just what I like to do here. So let's say I want to check out that repository. All right. So what I do is, okay, now I have this organization here, which is a GitHub organization. What I usually do is I create a folder. Let's say just make a directory under your dev folder, let's say, and so you're gonna just do this, make a folder here, and so now I want to basically put all my repositories for this course into this single folder, and then so here I'm just going to get the HTTPS URL for clone. I copy this, okay, and then essentially just type git clone, and then paste that URL here. All right, and then enter. There you go. So now you got the repo, and just okay, let's take a look. So we have this folder right here, and then I can open. So now, how do I start bringing this into the Visual Studio? Now you can use the Visual Studio menu, of course, like File, Open, right? Typical thing. So what I typically like to do is just I want to use the command line to, smoothly transition over to Visual Studio. So it's you just do start dev-env, and then this folder name, enter. So it will open up another Visual Studio window if you have other things open right now. You may be working on multiple things at the same time, but again, it's going to open a separate one. So now I have this right here. Okay. So So this is the first thing, right? Get your IDE and compiler installed, and also have Git, right? So Git, if you get this installed, it should have now you can check out the version of the Git 2.29, which is the latest one. Now, the other thing to make the development experience a little better, that I've decided to introduce you to a build tool. Now, the thing about Visual Studio though is, it usually is by default it supports this the sort of the CMake tool, which is another build tool for C++. And however, the problem with the CMake right now is it doesn't really support modules yet. Okay, and also CMake is relatively complex compared to some other tools. Now, the tool that I chose is called Build2, and so it's in the manual. Let's go back to the manual. Okay, so this build tool is the tool that I would like you to use to build your programs, because once you have written your source code, now remember there's a process for there's going to be another video about that process. Starting from the source code, you need to build an executable program from that source code. There's a process, and the compiler provides the primitive tools to do that. There's different tools actually you use in that process. Now, the build tool or a build system is a sort of a tool that help you manage all that process and make it easy. And also, there's because there's a lot of configuration you have to do with the compilers and the stuff, or linker. So I'll get to those concepts in a bit. Now, this is sort of the value of using the build tool is more of automation, and also brings some consistency to your projects. So the website for a build tool is basically buildtool.org. It has a lot of information here, so I'm not going to ask you to follow along those there, because you may have some trouble following all this documentation. Again, this is, if you want to, you can follow and read those, but I'm going to just introduce you to those things that minimum you need to know for this course. Okay, so I don't want to make it too complicated. So of course, a build system supports a lot of things out of the box, and for professional grade software development. So for the purpose of our course, we just need a couple of simple things. And okay, so follow this video to get that build tool installed. And if you don't want to follow the video, and then the instructions right here, you can just run that. Now, whenever you see a sort of a code block like this, then you see a greater than sign. The greater than sign is sort of the symbol that starts a command in the PowerShell. So if you see $, that's meant for Linux and a Mac terminal. So that's sort of the convention symbol that you see. So this kind of shows you that. So when you do copy a command, you copy the command right after the greater than sign. Typically, it's one line. But if you see multiple lines, that is where you'll see actually an escape character, which is a backtick. And the backtick for PowerShell is it escapes that new line, so it can sort of concatenate the multiple lines into a single line again. So that backtick here allows you to write a single line into multiple lines for readability. And there are certain special characters like the @ symbol needs to be escaped. So that's why you see a backtick right here too. So once you got the build tool installed, it actually has a couple of binaries in there. So one of the binaries is called BDEP. BDEP is the project dependency manager. So and then you're going to use that to so the first thing you do is basically initialize. So I have this new repo here, right? So what I do is I configure this. So you copy that line. Now this is the the sort of the embedded PowerShell terminal in the Visual Studio. So I would say this would be a once you got the thing cloned and launched, right? You just use the embedded PowerShell inside of Visual Studio. You should be using that because that sets up the environment for certain tools to be available. So just use that while you're working on your project. So the first step is basically initialize or to configure. Now, whether the thing comes with building C++ programs, there's a configuration phase. The configuration sets up the, like a compiler configuration, or your whatever the target platform you're trying to build for, and then you set that up or you specify what compiler you want to use. So, for example, so I don't want to explain everything in this line, but if you're interested, you can reach out to me and I can explain. But for the purpose of this course, you don't have to understand all of this yet. Okay, so I just want you to get you going. Now, this is to configure the C++ compiler to be CL. CL is the name of the MSVC compiler. That's the executable, actually, if it's on the path. And then let's say, you're going to get, CL, let's say, type in CL dash version. This is the MSVC, essentially 19.28. That's fairly recent, I believe. You may have a different version here, perhaps, but always get the latest one. So this first command is to initialize or configure the repository. No, this project. Think of this one repository as a single project. As you see, there's different programs inside, so there are different modules. But this whole thing is set up as a build tool project. That build tool, you see a bunch of other files. You don't need to make too much sense out of them yet. As we go along, perhaps I explain a bit more, but you don't need to worry too much about them yet, okay? Just let those files be there. And if I ask you to do an assignment, most likely I'll provide those things to you, at least in the beginning, okay? So, so I got this initialized, and actually what I have done is there's a configuration is set up by the build tool, by the way. So it's build tool or build tool. It sounds a little weird, but again, build tool is the name of the tool. So if in fact it has a new folder, just parallel to this project, and I call this whatever the name of the repo is, and do a -debug. Okay, and so that contains this folder. You don't need to change or manage this thing at all. This will be managed by build tool. Okay, so once you have that, because this is called out of source build. Now, I do this configure so it will not have a ton of files, because when the build system builds your program, it will generate a bunch of intermediate files. And so most of those files will be actually in this folder now. So it's much more cleaner. It's called out of source build. You could have done the in source build. It just gets messy. So this is sort of the preferred way I want you to use. Now, once you have done that, and now you're ready, and you have done the configuration. And by the way, you don't need to do configuration all the time. This is one time only. Okay, unless you have a problem with your configuration, then you'll make some changes to it. But consider this as a one time only. Okay, and if you change your code you don't necessarily change the first configuration phase, and then as we go along, I'll tell you, I'll teach you the commands to do certain things if that becomes necessary. Okay. So what you do now, you use another binary called a B, which is the primary build tool from the build to installation. Okay, so it has the B dep, it has a B. So just uh, execute B, and then let's say I want to. This is the first program from the textbook that I want to build. So I'm going to build this. Now keep in mind there's the slash and backslash. So this slash and the backslash that are both accepted. I usually type slash because that's what I'm used to. I usually work on a Mac. But the command, the terminal will automatically translate a forward slash when it sees it's a path into a backslash. So it doesn't really matter. Both are accepted, whether you want to type a forward slash or backslash. Now, when you run the B command, make sure that you have an ending slash or backslash. That's just how the build tool works, and so makes it has specific meaning with that last slash in there. So now your program is built. You actually have the executable now. The executable, the original executable is actually in that debug folder, right? The configure, we have the configuration. The configuration folder has that. Actually, it's buried there somewhere. But there's also a symlink generated in your current project that will just make it easier to actually run it from right there. So as you see, I have the instructions right here. It's a couple of levels deep. This is kind of the canonical project folder structure from Build Tool. There is a reason for this layout, even though it might look a little weird because this layout is kind of designed for large-scale software development. Now, if your program has only a single source file, it seems a little excessive. I agree. But again, the reason I chose the build tool for this course is it's got a, perhaps right now is the only tool out there that supports C++ 20 modules. Okay. That is why I chose this. Okay. And also because it's actually indeed an excellent build system. And if you actually delve into it. But again, you don't have to know everything about the tool, just the bare minimum to, because I want you to focus on programming, not too much on the build stuff. So essentially, now I have the executable in there, actually sort of 2 levels deep. So this X101 is sort of the module folder for that program. And then inside there's another folder that have exactly the same name. This is where the source code for X101 is located. And so inside there, you see this actual source code, right? That's the X101.cxx. Now, the about file name extension, the CXX, CPP, they're all equivalent. And in fact, the compiler doesn't even care what the file extension is. But it may have an impact on whether your IDE recognizes it. So the CXS or CPP, they're both recognizable in Visual Studio. Okay, so that is a C++ program. Now it's a source file. So you have seen this now. A tiny little detail here, and in the textbook you have seen this line a little different. Import in the textbook imported IO stream with angle brackets, right? And here we import std.core or standard core. This difference stems from the compiler differences, and what's shown in the textbook is most likely tested with GCC, and the GCC is the experience I'm going to offer to the Mac users if they don't get access to a Windows virtual machine, for example. And so on Windows, MSVC, so it supports, so this is a standard module And this actually, the std.core contains the IOStream stuff. Well, it has actually more. And so, but I'm not going to explain too much about the modules just yet. We'll get to that a little bit later in this course, and we'll actually have a little bit of introduction in another video about modules and stuff. So you may have seen the import statements in various different programs. And by the way, if you have written C++ program before, you probably are used to seeing the includes, the hash include for headers. Now, this is not a header. This is a module. So this is one of the primary features of a C++20. And so this is what we're seeing here. So this is the program, and actually we have that ready to run. So I'm gonna just run that exe file, all right, like that. So see, there it runs, okay? So that's what I'd like you to be able to do for getting started. And in the future, you will be asked to do an assignment, and at least now you got your built environment ready to go.